I landed at JFK expecting to see a familiar face, maybe a wave from my son, maybe that impatient look my daughter-in-law gives when she's tired of waiting. But there was nothing. Just strangers brushing past me with their wheeled bags, chasing time and destinations. I stood there, first 10 minutes, then 20, my phone still cold in my hand. No missed calls, no text. I finally called. It went to voicemail. Hi. We figured this would be easier. There's a ticket waiting for you at gate 37, one way. You'll love the peace and quiet. Portugal's good for the soul. That was it. Her voice, cheerful, sugar-coated like always, but the message, clear as daylight. I was no longer part of their plan. Just like that, the rug pulled out from under me. They didn't send a goodbye, just a destination. And as I sat in that terminal, clutching a boarding pass to a country I'd never planned to visit, I realized something ugly. I'd been packaged and shipped off like an old piece of furniture no longer matching the living room. The sun in Portugal was different. Not warmer, not colder, just distant. I arrived in a sleepy coastal town with crumbling sidewalks and salt-stained shutters. A man in his 60s met me with a nod and a key. Didn't speak a word of English, just pointed at a small 2-story building and walked off. That was the welcome committee. The apartment was bare, a cot, a chipped table. My suitcase sat in the corner like a ghost that got here before me. On the table, a note, my son's handwriting. Try to enjoy this new chapter. We'll check in soon. He didn't leave a phone or cash, just dry crackers, 2 cans of soup, and an unspoken message. Stay here, don't come back. The phone I brought? No service, no signal. I wasn't just in a different country, I was out of reach, like I'd died and no one updated the obituary. I remember the years I gave them, all of it, every damn bit. Double shifts at the plant, missing doctor's appointments so I could babysit their kids, sold my truck so they could make a down payment on their house. Every Thanksgiving, I carved the turkey, and she'd always say, Papa makes it best. She used to call me that. Papa. Like I mattered. I held her hand at my wife's funeral. She cried harder than anyone, told me, "You're family. We'll take care of you." But now, all I can hear in that voice message is her pretending to care, dressed up like kindness, a lie wearing perfume. 3 days in, I borrowed a neighbor's Wi-Fi, barely a signal, and searched Facebook. Curiosity, maybe, or just masochism. There they were, a photo, my grandson's birthday, balloons, cake. Everyone was there except me. Same dining table, same walls I helped paint 6 summers ago. But something was off. The family photo above the fireplace, gone. In its place, some generic landscape art. I clicked on a comment from a neighbor. Lovely to see the nice young couple move in with you guys. What couple? Then it hit me. My room, my space. Someone else's now. They didn't just forget me, they replaced me. The days blur together. I wake up, make coffee with a cracked kettle, boil eggs I can barely peel. I walk to the market where no one knows my name. The butcher nods. That's the most human contact I get. I try emailing old friends, no replies. Maybe they're busy. Maybe they think I moved to Portugal by choice. There's no TV in the apartment, just silence. The only English voice I hear is mine, when I read old letters out loud so I don't forget how it sounds. One night I whispered, "Maybe I am useless." But it wasn't my voice, it was hers. My daughter-in-law's words, slipping into my thoughts like poison. That night I pulled out an old notebook, started writing down everything, every day. Even if it was just one line, that small act, it reminded me I still exist. I made a quiet promise to myself. They may have erased me, but I won't vanish quietly. I woke up to silence, the kind that feels like something's missing, until I saw the envelope. Just there, slid under the door like a warning or an invitation, depending on how you want to take it. No name, no logo, just weightless paper carrying something heavier than it looked. Inside, a plane ticket, back to Raleigh, and one line typed out, centered like it was meant for a tombstone. Your absence has gone unnoticed. No instructions, no apology, not even a scribble of handwriting. I sat at the table for an hour, just staring. Was it some cruel joke? Did they send it? Or someone else who saw what happened? Maybe guilt, maybe a setup, or maybe just someone who thought they were doing me a favor. Whatever it wasn't kindness. But I packed anyway. Not because I thought they missed me, but because I needed to look into their eyes and see if they even remembered mine. I wasn't going back for closure. I was going back for proof. The airport felt like a place built for people who mattered. Travelers hustled through terminals with urgency in their eyes. Me? I just walked slow. There was no one to meet, no one waiting on the other side, just a gate and a boarding pass. I rehearsed conversations in my head, over and over. Why? How could you? I gave you everything. But the closer we got to landing, the more I knew I wouldn't say a word. Talking wouldn't fix it. Seeing it, that's what I needed. The plane touched down just past dusk. Familiar roads blurred past the car window as I headed toward the house I used to know. The same street lamps, the same mailbox shaped like a fishing boat down the street. But it all looked staged now, like a movie set made to mimic home. The car dropped me at the curb. I stood there with one bag and a handful of thoughts that wouldn't hold still. The porch light had changed. The paint looked fresh. The wind chimes I hung up last summer were gone. I reached into my coat pocket, pulled out the house key I'd carried for years, slid it into the lock. Nothing. Tried again. Twisted harder. Still nothing. My hand shook a little. Not from age, frustration. Then I heard footsteps inside. A voice, young, unsure, unfamiliar, shouted, "Hey, what are you doing?" The door swung open. A woman, maybe early 30s. Startled. Guarded. "This is my house," I said. She blinked. No, they moved months ago. Didn't they tell you?" That was the moment everything stood still, like time hit pause just long enough to punch me in the gut. She shut the door. I didn't knock again. I sat down on the curb, same spot where I taught my grandson to ride his bike. He'd fallen twice, then rode for 3 straight blocks. I'd cried watching him disappear down the road. Now it was me who disappeared. Nobody recognized me, not the neighbor walking his dog, not the kid selling lemonade across the street. No one even looked twice. I wasn't just forgotten, I was scrubbed out. The woman peeked out again, said I could use her phone. I nodded, took it, dialed my son's number, voicemail. "Hey, it's me." Long pause. What kind of man does this to his own mother? I didn't leave my name. If he didn't recognize my voice, maybe I was already too far gone. I checked into a cheap motel just off the freeway. The sign buzzed. Heater didn't work, but it was a roof and a door that locked. For $60, that's all I needed. I opened my suitcase, pulled out the notebook, wrote one sentence. "They've erased me. Now I write myself back in." Then another. Being quiet didn't protect me, but maybe speaking won't either. I'll do it anyway. I'd spent my whole life giving, helping, sacrificing, and when I needed the smallest thing, just to be remembered, I got silence. I didn't want revenge. I wanted answers. And maybe dignity. I opened the drawer, grabbed the motel's outdated phone book, flipped through listings, began circling addresses that sounded familiar. Something on the old TV caught my eye. A news segment, background noise. Then I saw her, smiling, my daughter-in-law. And just like that, everything changed again. The motel room felt like a holding cell, not a shelter. Thin walls, flickering light, the hum of a vending machine just outside my door. I had been staring at nothing for a long while when movement on the TV screen caught my attention. At first I didn't recognize her, not because her face had changed, but because I never expected to see it there. Broadcast, celebrated, smiling like she built the world with her own hands. There she was, my daughter-in-law. Hair perfect, voice soft, smile polished, introduced as a pillar of the community and key investor in residential developments. She spoke about family values, about building futures. Every word delivered like a sermon. The crowd admired her. They didn't know they were watching someone who could exile a person without blinking. My son sat beside her on that screen, hands folded, smiling without saying a word, the same expression he once had as a child when he broke something and waited for me to fix it. Only now the thing broken was me. I leaned forward, closer to the TV, as if distance could change what I was seeing. She said, "We've worked hard to create a home filled with love and respect." I remembered the last words she left on my voicemail, "You'll love the peace and quiet." It was a performance, a carefully staged lie, and the world was applauding. I muted the sound, but her lips kept moving, as if the lies traveled without audio. What infuriated me wasn't just the falsehood, It was how easily she erased me, how thoroughly she made me invisible. She always played kindness to strangers while tightening the noose on those closest. I had seen that dual nature before, brushed it off as sharpness. I was wrong. It was hunger. I opened my laptop, the one thing I'd packed with intention, not habit. The Wi-Fi in the motel crawled, but persistence beat speed. County records, public deeds, purchases, transfers. I searched the home address I once lived in. There it was. Her name, hers alone, my son's name, absent, changed 3 months ago. Another document, a credit account still tied to my name, one I thought I'd closed after my wife died. Charges, high-end furniture stores, decor boutiques, spa payments. She wasn't just building a new home, she was using my identity to furnish it. I leaned back. The truth didn't land like a punch, it settled like ash. She didn't just move me out, she removed me from the foundation, cut me from paper, like I was never part of the frame. A memory forced its way in. A dinner, about a year ago. She said, smiling, "Some traditions should end. People need to adapt." I laughed it off, thinking she meant recipes or decor. Later that night, she'd asked me for access to a few accounts to simplify bills. I signed, thought nothing of it. I didn't know I was signing my own disappearance. The room was silent except for the low buzz of the motel light. I didn't shake, didn't break. Tears would have been a luxury I wasn't interested in anymore. Instead, I clicked Save As and created a folder. Evidence, screenshots, documents, dates. Every deceit she dressed as progress. I wasn't collecting these to scream or to beg. I was building something stronger than outrage, not vengeance, truth. I whispered, "You didn't bury me. You planted me." The TV played on, her smile frozen in a perfect lie, while I prepared for the day it would fracture. I wasn't sure how or when, but I knew this much. This time I wouldn't knock on any doors. I'd remove the locks. I sat on the motel bed longer than I meant to, the laptop still warm against my legs. My eyes scanned the name again, Roger Severin. It hit me harder than I expected. That name belonged to someone I used to trust. Her uncle, retired paralegal. He once sat across from me during a 4th of July BBQ holding a sweating bottle of beer, telling me, "Paper can hide anything if you know which words to use." I thought it was a joke then. Looking at it now, his signature under the deed told me otherwise. He hadn't just signed a document, he'd vouched for it, stamped it with credibility. And now, his name sat beside hers, like a quiet handshake behind closed doors. I asked myself, was this the plan all along? Did they know how easy I was to mislead, how far loyalty could blind me? I didn't sleep much that night. The next morning I found myself walking toward the public library downtown. Quiet building, smelled like old paper and cold air. I asked the woman at the counter if they had legal aid resources. She looked up, surprised anyone still used the place for that. I gave her Roger's name. Her eyes lit with recognition. "He did filing for years," she said. "Mostly real estate transfers. Smart guy, quiet." I didn't answer, just nodded. In the back corner, I logged into a dusty terminal and pulled every document with her name and his. I didn't have to dig too far. Multiple transactions, quiet asset shifts, properties registered under shell names, rental income rerouted. Then I saw something that made my chest seize. An addendum buried in an old transfer clause. It named my son. Stated that if he was ever deemed mentally unfit or absent for more than 6 months, he forfeited claim to any shared property. Right below it, in small print, was a power of attorney assignment. My name, temporary, it said. Granted during extended overseas stay. It all clicked. While I was in Portugal, she had full control of the accounts, the house, everything. And she hadn't just left me there. She used that time to quietly finish the job. I leaned back in the stiff chair. A buzzing started in my ears. Not panic, not disbelief. Just a low, building anger that finally had direction. I wasn't exiled. I was removed. Paper by paper. Signature by signature. And the worst part, I handed them the pen. My mind drifted back to a night I had nearly forgotten. I was sick. Some stomach bug while visiting Florida. Lying on the couch, barely able to stand. She came in with a stack of envelopes. "You just rest. I'll handle the bills. Just need your signature here to deal with utilities while you recover." I signed, half asleep, half trusting. She kissed my forehead after and called me Papa. Now I saw it for what it was, the moment the trap shut. Later that day, I sat at a bus stop near the courthouse going over my notes. I called my son. Straight to voicemail. I didn't leave a message. I texted, "Did you know what you signed?" An hour later, a one-word reply. Don't. No punctuation, no explanation, just that, and that one word said more than silence ever could. It said he knew, maybe not everything, but enough. Enough to look away, enough to choose quiet over conflict. I didn't cry. I just sat there listening to the world move around me. Cars, laughter, a plane overhead. Then I opened my notebook and began writing. Not a letter, not a rant, a list, names, dates, documents, proof. They'd played the long game, but I had time now, and I had nothing left to lose. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about recovery, about reclaiming what was mine, not the house, not the money, my place in the truth. I stared across the street at the cold courthouse windows and whispered, "They thought I was done. They thought wrong." That night, when I got back to the motel, I saw the red light blinking on the phone. Voicemail from Roger. The light on the motel phone blinked red. I stared at it like it might explode. Something about seeing that single dot pulse in the dim room made everything feel heavier. I picked up the receiver, punched in the code, and listened. "Hey, it's Roger." His voice was slower than I remembered, and it carried that low drag of regret people try to cover with calm. "I know you probably don't want to hear from me, and I get it. But there's something you don't know. We need to talk. Not on the phone. I owe you some context." He paused before giving me a time, a location, a coffee shop near the courthouse downtown. Nothing fancy, just quiet. And no, she doesn't know I'm calling. The line went dead. I sat there, phone still to my ear. That word he used, context. It stuck. Not truth, not explanation, context, like reality depended on who was telling the story. I wondered if this was some elaborate stall tactic or if a crack was starting to form in whatever alliance they'd built behind my back. Either way, I had to see it through. I got to the cafe early the next morning. Didn't order a thing, just sat in the corner, watching people walk in and out. I didn't trust anything that came through a door lately. Roger showed up 10 minutes late, alone, slower on his feet. He looked like a man who'd lived a clean life, not because he was pure, but because he knew how to avoid getting caught in the mess. He sat down across from me without asking. No handshake, no apology. "She never trusted you," he said, just like that. "That's why she planned for when you were gone. Not if, when." My jaw tightened. I leaned forward. "And you helped her rewrite my son's legacy. That's what this is." He didn't blink. "I helped her protect what she thought was hers." I wanted to throw the table over, but I didn't. I just stared. Then he slid a manila folder across to me. No flourish, no drama. "She crossed a line. You deserve to know that." I opened it. Inside, copies of the notarization documents. One of them, the one that granted her full authority over my son's half of the house, had different initials on two versions. Dates didn't match. And the signature page, his looked rushed, off, almost forced. "I didn't witness that one," Roger said quietly. "She had him sign it while you were sedated. After your surgery in Lisbon, he doesn't even remember it." I kept staring at the folder, not moving, not breathing much. Legally, it might not hold. Morally, it changed everything. "If she knew I gave you this," Roger said, his voice lower now, "I'd lose my license, my pension, maybe more, but I already lost your respect. So here." I didn't thank him, just stood up, folder in hand, and walked out. Outside, the sun was too bright, birds too loud. Everything around me felt like it had the nerve to keep existing while I was cracking in half. I stood at the curb, letting it all settle in. They hadn't just lied. They'd coordinated, covered tracks, built a paper fortress, and handed me the blueprint to my own disappearance. This wasn't abandonment. It was erasure, plotted and executed. And now I had proof, not of everything, but of enough. I walked to the nearest library, used one of the public scanners, and uploaded every document to a flash drive I'd kept in my wallet since 2015. Labeled each file, cross-referenced dates, discrepancies, signatures. Then I called the legal aid hotline. A woman answered. Calm voice. Patient. I told her everything. Not just about the documents, but about the forgery. The hospital. My son's lack of memory. She listened. Really listened. When I was done, she exhaled and said, "This might be bigger than civil. You may want to talk to someone about criminal fraud." I nodded, though she couldn't see me. After the call, I sat there in silence. It wasn't sadness I felt, it was clarity. For the first time since stepping off that plane, I wasn't confused or helpless. I wasn't screaming into a void. I was building something, brick by brick. I opened my notebook and wrote, "I didn't lose a home. I lost illusions." That truth felt solid. I packed my things, left the library, and walked back to the motel. When I got to the door, something caught my eye. Another envelope, plain, unmarked, slid under the door. Again. When I got back to the motel, the room felt colder than I'd left it. The same hum of the air conditioner, the same faint smell of bleach and dust, but everything felt dimmer. Maybe it was me. I turned on my phone, missed calls, dozens, all from numbers I didn't recognize. I scrolled, no voicemails, just silence. Then, one message, no words, just a blank bubble. From Keaton's number. I stared at it, breath caught in my chest. I typed fast. "Keaton? It's Grandpa. Are you okay?" No reply. I waited. Refreshed the screen. Nothing. I checked voicemail again. Still empty, like no one had ever spoken to me. I sat on the edge of the bed, thumb resting over the home button. I felt that ache again. Not sharp, just hollow. That slow realization that you're not just being ignored, but you're being erased. Was I blocked? Or was it worse? Was I deleted? I walked down to the front desk, borrowed the motel's computer. The clerk gave me a look like I was just another old man fumbling with tech he didn't understand. I logged into my cloud account, searched for backups, anything tagged with Keaton. There used to be dozens, short voice notes. "Love you, Grandpa. Can we go get pancakes?" One from his 5th birthday where he sang off key and giggled halfway through. But now, nothing. I dug deeper. Metadata logs, hidden entries. They had been there. Deleted 2 weeks ago. Not archived, not moved. Gone. Purged. That kid was the one light I still felt shining toward me. And they reached back in time and snuffed it out. Not because of storage space, but because I wasn't supposed to exist in his world anymore. I clicked open another tab. My digital mailbox. One notification caught my eye. Return to sender, no longer at this address. My letter, the one I sent to my son, that handwritten one begging for an explanation, for honesty, had never made it to him. The USPS stamp showed it tried to forward from Portugal, then got refused in the States. Both times, I just sat there staring at the screen, no blinking, no thinking. They didn't just silence me, they planned this, blocked the path before I even took the first step. That's not distance, that's control. And they masked it with silence. I leaned back in the chair, staring at the ceiling tiles like maybe answers were hiding in the grid. A few memories started bubbling up, small, careless comments from her over the years. "You don't need to worry about that, Dad. Just let us handle it. You're too sentimental." Too sentimental. That's what she thought of me. That's the label she slapped on every picture I saved, every message I kept, every letter I wrote. I whispered out loud, "Too sentimental." That's what you tell yourself when you're burying someone alive and trying to make it sound merciful. That thought hit me hard. I wasn't just grieving, I was being rewritten. And I grabbed Roger's folder from my bag and laid it out on the motel desk, alongside my notes, my cloud log, the metadata printouts. I started making connections, document to file, signature to timestamp, deleted message to location tag. If they wanted my voice gone, I'd speak louder. I opened a new drive, encrypted, off-site, uploaded everything. Then I grabbed my notebook and wrote down one line. "They erased memories. I'll make them permanent." The rage didn't come as fire this time. It came like an anchor, heavy, steady, planted. I was no longer chasing a response. I was building a case. I closed the laptop, leaned back in the creaky chair, and that's when I heard it. Footsteps, in the corridor. Slow, deliberate. Someone was standing just outside the door. The courthouse looked the same as it always had, cold stone, wide steps, glass doors polished by hands that never stayed long. But walking toward it that afternoon, I didn't feel like a spectator. I felt like someone stepping onto a field already divided. My pulse was steady, slower than fear, quicker than peace. The folder in my hand felt heavier than its paper contents. It held more than evidence. It held everything I refused to let them bury. Inside, the marble floor echoed each step like a reminder. You're not supposed to be here. A clerk glanced up, then quickly away, the way people do when they sense conflict. I kept walking, not to fight, not to plead, to correct. I took a breath before pushing open the conference room door. She was already there. Marla sat at the far side of the long table, hands folded neatly, expression unreadable. Beside her was her attorney, a young man with too much confidence in his silence. On my side sat a legal aid advisor flipping through papers, unaware of the weight they carried. No greetings, no gestures, just the static hum of a projector warming up. I reached into my bag, pulled out a USB drive, and slid it across the table. "Play it," I said. The attorney hesitated, then inserted it into his laptop. The screen blinked to life. First clip, my house, midnight, Marla entering with a box. She removes documents, signs them, alone. Her composure tightened, but she didn't move. Next clip, a locksmith at the front door. She hands him a new lock. My porch light already replaced. A murmur rose from the staff in the room. Someone scribbled a note. The attorney leaned forward, eyes wide. I watched her face. No panic, just calculation. "This proves nothing," she said evenly. "You gave us permission," I cut in, voice calm. "At midnight, without witnesses, without my signature." She didn't reply. I reached for another folder. Opened it flat on the table. "This isn't just betrayal," I said quietly. "This is strategy, and I finally see it." I turned to the next page, property records. "Let's talk about the name," I said. "The one you counted on, no one noticing." There it was, printed clearly on the screen. Holden M. Morris, not Holden M. Vick. My son's name, altered by a single word, a clerical error, timed exactly 3 days after I was flown out of the country. She replaced my son with a legal ghost, I explained, pointing to the metadata logs. So any claim I made would fail before I even filed it. The room fell dead silent. Marla finally spoke, voice measured. "You were absent. I had to secure what was fragile." "Absence," I replied, leaning forward, "is not consent." Her attorney shifted, unsure whether to intervene or watch. That was the moment the air changed, not dramatically, quietly, like a window finally opening in a sealed room. I gathered the pages, closed my folder. "I'm not here for an apology," I said. "I'm here to make sure you don't decide the ending." I stood. No one stopped me. Walking out through the marble hall, I felt the glances. Not pity, not doubt. Something closer to acknowledgement. Back at the motel, I sat at the edge of the bed, the day replaying in pieces, the tension, the exposure, her face cracking just enough to show something I'd never seen there before, uncertainty. I opened my laptop again, reviewed the footage. This time, I watched her eyes. She wasn't afraid of judgment. She was afraid of truth. I wrote one line in my notebook. "The battle isn't to prove what happened. It's to prove I'm still here." As I turned off the light, my phone lit up. A text. No name. "They know you have it. Be careful." Walking into the hearing room, I could feel eyes on me before the door even closed behind me. Phones raised, flashes blinking like warning lights in a storm. Reporters lined the benches along the wall, whispering behind notepads. I wasn't just a man fighting for his name anymore. I was the headline. The chair at the front wasn't built for comfort, but I sat upright, folder in hand, spine straight. I looked at the judge, then at the small sea of legal aides and family members behind Marla. She didn't even look up. I'd rehearsed this moment, but nothing prepares you for silence so thick it feels like breathing underwater. Then I spoke. My name is Holden Vick, and what I'm about to show you, some of you already know, the rest of you are about to learn. I nodded to the technician. The screen behind me flickered to life. There he was, my son, Holden Jr., his face pale, voice shaking, but clear. I helped her, he said in the recording. I thought I was protecting our assets, but I didn't know the full truth. I signed what she gave me. I saw the papers. I didn't read the details. Murmurs rippled through the room. She told me it was temporary, the video continued, to keep it out of probate. I didn't know it meant erasing him. He meant me. Marla didn't react, not visibly, but I saw it. Her fingers tightened into her skirt, knuckles bone white. She lied to my son, I said, turning to face the room. He believed her, but believing a lie doesn't make it true. The judge's pen paused midair. You can't unhear that, I said. You can't unsee what came before this moment. The silence that followed didn't feel empty. It felt full, like something sacred had been cracked open. But I wasn't done. I reached into my bag and pulled out a small wooden box, familiar to only one person who truly mattered. I made this, I said, for Keaton, my grandson, when he was 6. I carved it by hand. The initials on the bottom, mine and his. I passed it to the clerk, who held it up. The screen behind me shifted again, photos of the same box, listed on an online auction platform. Seller name, M. Vick. She sold it, I said, something that wasn't hers to give away, something he was supposed to grow up with. I looked at Marla. This was my voice to him, I said. You didn't just silence me, you repurposed me. Her eyes darted sideways. No denial, just stillness. For a second, it felt like the floor would give out beneath me, but I stood taller. There wasn't applause. There was something heavier, acknowledgement. Some witnesses looked down, others nodded. The judge tapped the gavel gently. Marla's attorney leaned in to whisper something, face tight, eyes scanning the room for exits that didn't exist. Requesting recess, he said aloud. Granted, I left the stand slowly. My knees weren't what they used to be, but they held. Outside the chamber, reporters crowded in. One shoved a mic near my face. Do you feel vindicated? I paused. No, I said. I feel seen. Back at the motel, the neon light outside flickered against the blinds. I placed the box gently on the table, hooked up my laptop, uploaded everything, Holden's video, auction records, screenshots, into a secure cloud folder. Then I opened a text window, typed, Keaton, I'll tell you everything. No more secrets. I closed the lid, picked up my pen. They rewrote our history, I wrote. Now I'm rewriting its ending. I laid back, not expecting sleep, but not fearing the dark anymore. When I stepped into the courthouse press hall, I wasn't sure what I expected. Maybe more judgment, maybe indifference. Instead, what I faced was a sea of eyes, cameras raised, lights burning into my skin. But this time, I didn't shrink under them. I stepped to the podium with my folder tucked against my chest, felt the weight of every silent night, every unanswered question, every door that closed in my face. I cleared my throat. I existed, I began, and I will not vanish. The microphones pushed closer. A rustle cut through the room. I didn't read from paper. I didn't need to. Truth deserves oxygen, and today, it breathes. I didn't name Marla. I didn't curse my son. I spoke only of restoration. Erasure is a kind of death, I said. But I'm here. Questions fired immediately. Do you intend to press charges? Will you reconcile with your family? Do you forgive them? I answered none of that. I answered only what mattered. I was not lost, I said. I was buried. And I dug. That's when a reporter near the front asked, Sir, is it true some people believed you had already passed? The question landed differently. I tightened my grip around the edges of the podium. I'd saved something for this. I held up my phone and played it. The voicemail Marla sent to an associate, her voice smooth with certainty. He doesn't matter anymore. I've moved on. Let people think what they want. It's cleaner that way. Silence. No scribbling pens, no camera flash, just stunned air. They thought I was dead, I said softly. because she preferred me that way. I didn't wait for their reaction. I stepped back, let the moment stand. Some reporters lowered their devices, realizing this was not a scandal. It was an epitaph being rewritten. Later that evening, I found myself standing before the house I once called home. The lawn was trimmed, porch light glowing, wind chimes whispering in a place I no longer belonged. I didn't walk to the door. I didn't need to. I simply set the carved wooden box on the front step. The same box she tried to sell. The same one I kept. "I'm still here," I whispered. I didn't expect anyone to hear it. From there, I drove to the cemetery. Sunset bled across the sky when I reached her grave, my wife's. I sat on the bench beside the headstone, the letter folded in my pocket, worn from years of not sending it. I unfolded it slowly, smoothing the creases with a thumb. Words I once didn't have the courage to say trembled on the page. I laid it down beside her name, along with a chiffon scarf I'd kept, folded into the shape of a bird, like she once taught Keaton to make with napkins at dinner. "I left silence behind for you," I murmured. "I'm done with it now." In that stillness, something shifted. Grief didn't loosen, but it stood beside something new. Steadiness. Night crept in, crickets humming. I stood, brushing dirt from my knee. I wasn't returning to anything. I was moving forward. Back at the gate, I paused, opened my phone, typed a message. To those who believed I disappeared, I didn't. I'm coming back, and I won't be quiet. I sent it to Keaton, then to a few others. The world had once decided I was finished, but I was just beginning to speak.